Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, social science teacher and academic JP Swart here. Today I'm going to talk about the first flourishing African kingdom, also known as the Kingdom of Mapungubwe. I took the liberty to summarize a few key aspects of today's lesson for us. The first one, we are going to begin with the Zizu farmers before the Kingdom of Mapungubwe, the roles of the Shoda and the Quechua tribes, the significance of the king's sacred leadership, what is Mapungubwe Hill, the way the Mapungubweans lived, the class-based society of Mapungubwe, and finally, the decline of Mapungubwe. The Zizu farmers. Guys, for me, this is the tribe that spearheaded the founding of Mapungubwe, as you will see now. Zizu farmers, named after their ceramic type, originated in what now is southwest Zimbabwe and eastern Botswana. They traded with beads, cloth, rhino horns, ostrich feathers, salt, and goods that they had crafted, and was key in the founding of Mapungubwe. When I explained to my children the importance of trading, guys, we know that in those day and age, I'm talking specifically the time period of this lesson, it is between AD 900 until AD 1300. They traded immensely with that second paragraph that I gave you. They traded with beads, cloth, rhino horns, ostrich feathers, salt, and goods that they had crafted. The more you could have traded with some other tribes, the more power you gained and the more renowned you were in the time of AD 900 till AD 1300. I don't want to delve into the Kingdom of Mapungubwe just yet, so in this section I'm going to just give a little bit of a background about the location of Mapungubwe, where it was specifically situated. So let's start. Before the Kingdom of Mapungubwe, more than 1,000 years ago, a flourishing African kingdom existed called Mapungubwe. The kingdom was situated at the meeting of Limpopo and Sheshe River. Guys, this is in present day I'm talking now. This is where the border of South Africa, Botswana, and Zimbabwe meet in present day. The beginning, AD 900 until AD 1300, like I mentioned before. Guys, this is the time span of the Kingdom of Mapungubwe. And I want you to keep in mind, guys, the importance of trading in our history. Not just African history, not just European history, not just South American or North American history, history in general as we know it today. Let's go. Around AD 900, the Zizu farmers were living in what we now know to be Zimbabwe and moved to the Sheshe Limpopo River Valley because it was a better trading point. This was an excellent move because it's silly for me to say this, but remember, there were no cars in that time period, there were no trucks, so they mainly distributed their trading goods, you know, the beads, the rhino horns, the ostrich feathers, by means of cattle. So for them to move to a river valley means that they could have used the river to distribute even to distant lands, to lands they could not reach before through the means of land travel. AD 900 until 1300 is known as the Middle Iron Age. In this period, the first complex society in Southern Africa developed. Guys, a complex society means to build a town or to establish a settlement and to have class-based distinctions, like I will show you here. This is like the commoners, the warriors, the priests, the kings, every political stance or every political figure. This is the first time that we will be introduced to some political structure where you will have a king, priests, royal families, warriors, and commoners, obviously. The Shroda tribe. Guys, after the Zizu farmers moved to the Sheshe Limpopo River Valley, the Shola tribe came into existence. Before moving to Mapungubwe, the Zizu farmers settled in an area east of Mapungubwe called Shoda. The settlement had a population of 500 people and was a good trading point. From this area, the people of Shoda traded with the coast. Why could they have traded with the coast? Because they used the means of the river to distribute their trading goods. Remember in the previous slide, I said they only made use of land trade before the Zizu farmers moved to the Limpopo River Valley. Now they can use that valley or that river to distribute their trading goods to the coast. Also, in the beginning I said, remember, you must also remember, the more you could trade with other people or other distant countries, the more power and the more currency you will have. From the coast, the goods went to distant lands, like I just said. In return, the Zizu people received more glass beads, cloth, and other goods. The K2 tribe. Guys, you must remember, the Zizu farmers weren't the only colony or tribe in the southern part of Africa. There were a bunch of other colonies and other tribes scattered around the area. And the more richer you were as a tribe, like the Zizu or the Shora tribe were at that time, the more attention will be on your tribe because rival tribes want your riches. So let's move on. The people of Shona became very wealthy and attracted the attention of the Kalundu people. Kalundu people were part of their own tribe and took charge of the area. So it was very easy for the Kalundu people to take over the area of Shona and use that river valley, as I constantly refer back to distribute their trading materials to distant lands and to coastal countries because they were much larger than the Shoda tribe. I think there were like 1,500 people more than the Shoda tribe. Shoda was conquered and later abandoned, and a new settlement was formed about a kilometer away. This area was known as the K2. The K2 area was much larger than Shoda, with a population, there we go, of 1,500 people. The more inventive this tribe got, the more space they needed to expand their operation, to house their people, to give their cattle the beneficial feeding place that they want, to distribute more trading, and to invent more ways to restructure their defense. You must understand the K2 or the Kulundu people took over the area of Shoda. Now there are 1,500 people with the riches of other tribes. Now they are starting to think, okay, but we must protect ourselves. Because how easy was it for the Kalundu people to take over the Shoda area? Surely there will be other tribes gunning for them now because of they heard the story of this tribe that made war against other tribes and now they gained the riches. So now we are going to see what's going to happen. The people of K2 were very skilled. They were skilled craftsmen who made pottery, large glass beads, iron tools, and body ornaments. They were also successful farmers. These people were evolved and needed more space, therefore they left K2 after 200 years and moved to an area named Mapungubwe. So the more these people evolved, the more space they needed for the success in farming and the success in crafting and the success in trading. They needed more space so that they can evolve even more. Let's refer back to the previous slide. where we talked about the people of K2 being so skilled and so successful in farming and skilled at crafting, and the most evolved tribe out of all the tribes in Southern Africa, that the area was actually getting too small for the community or for the colony or for the tribe, however you want to call it. It does not really matter in this context. After 200 years, they left the area of K2 and they are going to start forming the phenomenon known as Mapungubwe. But for Mapungubwe to function in an orderly fashion and to be an organized trading operation, Mapungubwe needed a king. And the people of Mapungubwe was very spiritual and religious. They believed that there was a link between the king, God, and their ancestors. People also believed that the king could communicate with God and ask for sufficient rainfall. If he failed to do that, he was considered a weak king. Just imagine yourself being in that specific position. If you cannot supply, we know, us humans know, that we ourselves cannot supply our area with rainfall. But in this context, they believe that if the king did not ask or did not get it right to ask for rainfall via God, he was considered a weak king or a weak link, or he could not lead this community into a better future and to get more evolved as the time went on. In my opinion, this is the peak of the lesson, no pun intended, the significance of Mapungubwe Hill. Guys, throughout the next few slides, we are going to talk about a few things that includes class-based distinctions and class-based communities and colonies. What do I mean when I say when something is class-based? It simply means from the most important until the least important. So in this situation, the most important will obviously be the king of Mapungubwe. Then it will be his royal family or royal members or royal servants. Then it will be the warriors of Mapungubwe, the defense system, if you will. And then it will be the commoners, the simple people, if you will allow me to explain it like that. Let's take a look at the Mapungubwe Hill. The Mapungubwe Hill was known as the rain-making hill because of the crops that they have grown. Remember, the person responsible for rain in this context, it is the king asking God, please supply us with enough rain to supply us with a good crop season. If he cannot do that, then he will be regarded as unfit to lead the kingdom of Mapungubwe. Surely if you want to be the king of the most evolved tribe, you must pull a rabbit out of the hat and supply them with rain. The hill had steep sides where chiefs could go to talk to their ancestors and to God. So the chiefs of this colony will go up the steep hill until the very top of the mountain or the hill, and they will actually perform special rituals to God and to their ancestors, asking for rain for the community or for the tribe, or for forgiveness for past sins, or for just guidance, and obviously to help them through difficult time periods. The king of Mapungubwe stayed at the top of the hill where he gained the power of the hill. This is not literally, this is figuratively. You cannot actually gain power of the hill. You know this already. I hope you know it. But it will mean for the king to stay at the very top of the hill, he has the stature of he is the king. He is the highest of the community. He is the highest man in power. Therefore, he gained the power of the hill. And that power of the hill regarding asking for rain via God will help him in his journey as well. Now that we have the origin of Mapungubwe out of the way, let's delve into a more detailed version of the architecture of the tribe, the way Mapungubweans lived, therefore the first stone-walled palace. The king, his wives, and some attendants lived in a stone-walled complex. This stone-walled complex was the first of its kind. Remember when I talked about complexes, it is basically a town that is circled with a boundary of stone walls. Um, Actually, a fun fact, this was the most secluded part of the tribe that I'm going to show you now. The complex provided seclusion from the tribe for the king to perform his rituals. Guys, obviously a king needs his privacy with his family, and the privacy also was beneficial for him to perform his, as we know, rituals and asking God to provide for the colony or for the tribe and various other things. Mapungubweans used these stone walls to build boundaries and enclosures, also used as a defense mechanism. You know, to be the most wealthy, the wealthiest tribe, you need to upgrade your defenses. Because where did we revisit this other circumstances when we talked about the people of Shoda? When the people of Shoda became wealthier and wealthier and wealthier, what happened to them? Other tribes made war against them and they took their riches. So these are actually the same people who made war against the Shoda people. So they learned from past experience, the more wealthier you got, the more you needed to be aware of other dangers outside of your walls in this context. So they really made sure that they were well prepared and well defended in their tribe. Royal class tribe members used stone architecture to show their class and power. Guys, obviously the stone walls is a symbol of wealth. It is a symbol of wealth and it is a symbol of power for the royal members of the tribe. Let's take a look at the origin of the social classes and the first town. Remember, we briefly discussed the class-based distinctions or the class-based communities. So here we go. Mapungubwe was at its peak and was known as South Africa's largest settlement. Members of the royal family lived in the second half of the hill and also had stone-walled boundaries. Briefly look at the graph while I'm explaining for you to have a visual explanation of what is going on in this section. We have the king at the top, the royal members on the second half, the warriors on the third half, and lastly, the commoners. Commoners lived at the base of Mapungubwe Hill. This was the first class-based society. So it was actually the start of the first class-based society. So if you were part of this tribe, you will absolutely know that you will have a specific place to stay in this tribe. This was also the first time that the king was secluded or separated physically from his own tribe, like I will show you here. The king was seldom seen with his subjects. It was also the first time the king was physically separated from his tribe. Like always, all good things must come to an end, and sadly for Mapungubwe, the metaphor did not change. So let's briefly discuss the decline of Mapungubwe. Have you ever heard of the Ice Age, where due to climate changes, it will be exceptionally cold and ice will start to melt and farming strategies will change because of climate change? This is exactly what happened to Mapungubwe. Disaster struck in AD 1290 when the Ice Age caused drought failures. They did not have a single drip or method to obtain water. The river valley was completely frozen, it was completely shut down, and because of this valley being frozen and shut down, the trade routes had changed. So Mapungubwe could not trade with Great Zimbabwe. Now let's briefly talk about Great Zimbabwe. While Mapungubwe gained this vast wealth and vast fame quickly, it also happened to another community called Great Zimbabwe. Like Mapungubwe, it was very wealthy, it was very well known, and the two giants, Mapungubwe and Great Zimbabwe, that is, decided to trade with each other. But unfortunately, when the Ice Age period struck Mapungubwe and it was a big drought and they could not supply other countries with their trading materials, they could not survive. So sadly, Mapungubwe came to an end. The kingdom could not survive and was abandoned after AD 1300. So after Mapungubwe perished or could not supply countries, basically they could not live on. Great Zimbabwe saw the perfect opportunity to take over Mapungubwe yet again. Now the K2 people know how it felt when they took the area of Shoda, if you remember our previous slides. And let's move on. Great Zimbabwe gained power after Mapungubwe was abandoned. So Mapungubwe was one of two giants, and sadly Mapungubwe perished. And this is the great opportunity, or a great opportunity, for Great Zimbabwe to gain more power because there was a huge opponent no longer in the fight. Guys, this is the end of our history lesson of Mapungubwe, the wonderful journey of Mapungubwe. I hope you understand. I hope you have a vast knowledge of what happened in Mapungubwe. We can talk about Great Zimbabwe in another video at another time. If you ask me to do that, I will summarize it for you so that you can understand. So thank you. This is social science teacher and academic JP Swart, ending of Mapungubwe.